Welcome everybody to the bonus recording for ENC 1101. One of the hardest things to do or to grasp or to perform in ENC 1101 really is the documentation part. And so I'm not 100% surprised that we struggled with it a little bit on the exemplification essays. I am concerned, however, that a lot of people did not even seem to attempt to cite their sources. So that's a bigger problem. I don't know. I don't know what was missing from the course that led you to believe that it was okay to have sources without citing them, but it's not. So one of the most important takeaways from 1101 is the process and the uh, ability to cite your sources. So there are two key elements to citation. There's the works cited page or the bibliography. And when you are doing APA, it's called a references page, but every research paper is going to have a list of the sources that you used at the end of it. No exceptions. Now, of course, there may be papers where you're not required to use research like our personal narrative. But 99.9% of the time, when you are writing a paper for a college class, it's going to have research involved. So there's going to be a bibliography at the end of it. Now, the bibliography at the end follows certain sets of rules. So depending on which type of documentation you're asked to use, we are using MLA documentation in ENC 1101. But you will also at some point probably be using APA documentation, etc. So my goal in ENC 1101 is not to force you to memorize all the rules and regulations of MLA. The goal here is to know what you need to know. And sometimes it's one of those situations. If we don't know what we don't know, we don't even know where to look it up. We don't even know what to do with it. So, but keep in mind, it's going to have a bibliography of some kind, every paper that you write. And beyond that, it's going to have what we call in-text or internal citation. You may also hear it referred to as parenthetical citations. And in those, we have information that points the reader to the works cited page or the bibliography in a shortcut form to know which of those sources you are referring to. It doesn't matter if you are quoting directly from that source, or you are paraphrasing that source, or even if you are summarizing that source. You have to make it clear to your reader when you are using research. So what I want to focus on in this video is the citation aspect. Now, finding sources is a whole different thing. I'm probably going to do a completely separate video on that. But I am going to show you very quickly when you are looking at the library where to find the information that you need to create the works cited entry, because you should be using primarily library sources for our papers. And when you are using library sources, you don't have to invent the MLA citation from scratch. It is provided for you. So I am going to show you where to find that information. I also gave you a link in the previous announcement this week to the page where the library keeps everything relevant to MLA. So there are guides, there are templates, there are sample papers, here's how you cite your sources. Everything that you need to properly cite your sources in MLA is there, but again, it's like navigating it. How do you find the information, et cetera, et cetera. So I may go over that website a little bit more in depth with you in a later video. But today I just really want to focus on creating a works cited page and using in-text citations, because that's going to be the biggest thing going forward. Now, I am going to also show you, I'm going to open a sample document that is this was written by a librarian, not at Valencia. This is one of my good friends who's a librarian elsewhere. but this particular document shows you what an MLA paper looks like. Some of you also just, struggled with the basic format. So this document I'm going to include in the announcement with this video so that you have it to refer to. You can use this as a template as well, in addition to the one that is on the Valencia Library webpage that I sent you in the previous one. So I want to just kind of briefly scroll through this and show you kind of the key elements. So when you are setting up an MLA paper, of course, we have the header with your last name and the page number. We have your name, your instructor's name, the class name, and the date. We have a title. Some of you did not give your work a title in the exemplification essay. Always give your papers a title, and always give them a title that's not just the name of the assignment. Instructors will be impressed if you do that, because sometimes we get lazy and we're just like exemplification essay, and I get it. We all have moments. So you'll notice that everything is double spaced. There's no extra spacing before or after the title. And every paragraph is on the left-hand margin with that first line indented. We call that first line indent, and left justified is what the technical term for it. Most of you did switch your text to Times New Roman 12, and I do think that's a good practice, because some instructors will absolutely refuse to accept anything else. One quick thing, though, is it is definitely not the default for Word. So you do also have to change the font and size of the header if you are using something other than the default. I'm okay with you using the default so that you have fewer things to change. So that's entirely up to you. So we have paragraphs. Now, this is our first incidence right here of an in-text citation, and you will notice that it has a name and a number. Not all sources have page numbers, but MLA loves old school sources, and so when a page number is available, that's what goes there. We do not use a year ever in MLA, ever inside an in-text citation. So some of you had those in your in-text citations. I applauded you for trying, but that's an APA thing, and we're not using APA at all in our course. Now, what does this mean? Well, if we go down, we're going to scroll down to the works cited list, and it happens to be the first one. The order of a works cited list is always alphabetical. It is not in the order that they appear in the paper. Although this one does happen to be the first one that appeared in the paper as well. But one of the reasons you need to do your works cited list before you do anything else is we need this information to know what goes in the in-text citation, because it's always going to match what comes first. In this case, there's an author. Again, my friend Nora made up all this stuff. Obviously, she's a Harry Potter fan. But Dumbledore, last name, and it's a book. So we would have a page number. It's an actual book that we looked at in person. Doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. So if a page number is available, we do use the page number as well. When we scroll back up, we will notice that we have the next one we have just has the word magic, but notice that it is in quotation marks. So if there is no author, we skip that and we go to what comes first in the works cited entry, which happens to be, in this case, the magical of parenthetical references. Now, you don't have to put that whole title, but you do have to use the title, and you do have to put quotation marks around it because it is a quotation mark title. This particular one that she made up is on page 34 and 35 of a magazine that we apparently looked at in person. Seems very suspicious, but we'll take it. So we do have a page number. Sometimes even if you're looking at the sources in the library materials and it's all online, you will still be able to have a page number because it will be a scanned page. It will be a PDF of the original. And other times you may have it because it's only one page, like the one above this. Phileas Flitwick's is only on page 10. So if I were citing this source, I could use Flitwick and 10. Oh, one quick thing before we go too far past the Dumbledore thing. You'll notice in the very next sentence, we don't have Dumbledore inside the in-text citation. We have it outside because, and the sentence even says it, if the author's name is used in the sentence, you need only add the page number in parentheses as illustrated by Dumbledore and then 78. Okay. So again, if you have page numbers, you use them. If you don't have page numbers, it may just be magic in quotation marks or Dumbledore, the author. Now, in this one, you'll notice that we have McGonagall, an author, and we have a title. So let's scroll down and find out why. Notice that we have Minerva McGonagall, one book called MLA Style, and then another book called Transfiguring a Badly Formatted Paper, blah, 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 blah. So when we cite one of these, we have to give more information than the first item or the author's last name. So she used McGonagall and the word transfiguring. Again, you don't have to put that whole title in there, but you do have to mark it however it would be. So if it was a quotation mark title, it would have quotation marks. This happens to be a book title, so it's in italics. Knowing what titles to use which one with is not easy, but again, it's not something I expect you to memorize. I want you to look it up. Okay, so all you have to do, and you can Google it, MLA titles, and you'll find tons of websites that talk about what titles get what. But essentially, the main thing to keep in mind is that if it is part of something larger, like an article in a magazine, then the article title gets quotation marks and the magazine title gets italics. That's kind of the best way to sort of think about them. So all books would be italics. All websites, depends on what part of the website entry you're looking at. Let me see. I'm sure she's got one on here. Does she? Maybe she does. Oh, here it is. So this is a citation for a web page called MLA Citation, and the website is called Research Guides. So it's the same exact principle as we're having a part of something larger. The page that you're looking at is quotation marks and the website itself is italics. You will never, ever, ever just cite the website as a whole. You need individual citations for any page that you're looking at. And again, you're not supposed to be using tons of websites, so it's not a too big of an issue. But I will say that there are some really good websites that will help you cite a website. So I'm going to suggest using my brain just lost the word, Scribbr, SCRIBBR.com, whenever you have a website to cite. But before we do that, we're going to, oh, I shouldn't have closed that. I want to add, let me reopen that and reshare. Okay, so we're gonna, let me share that again. We're going to add the new ones that I'm going to show you how to add to the existing document. So first we're going to get a we're going to get a source from the library. So we're going to sign into the library. I don't know if I'm going to have to use my phone. We'll see. Have signed in once today, so I should be okay, but yay. Okay. So whenever we're looking for something in the library, I'm gonna look for something related. So I'm gonna look for Harry Potter. That's my search. Why not? We'll continue Nora's system here. And we're going to find a lot of different things. We're going to find books, we're going to find articles, we're going to find, in this case, we found videos. I'm going to make sure that I can find it online, because typically when we are researching, we are only looking online. And I'm going to limit it to, let's see, a resource type. I'm going to limit it to magazine articles, just because many of you are going to be using magazine articles or similar things. So we're going to check that. Let me make sure I don't need to change anything else. Okay, this will work. We'll just use one of these. So I'm going to open the first one. I'm just going to use the first one, and it's available online. And we will need to pick a database. It doesn't honestly matter which database you use. These are all official databases within the library. So I'm just gonna use General One file. And this will bring up the article. Now, in this particular case, I do not have a PDF. So I would not be able to use page numbers unless it was only on one page. I think it probably was. We'll know that when we scroll down and get the citation. So let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. On these Gale databases, it will be at the bottom. And the first one that comes up under the citation guides is MLA. So we don't need to click on anything, but if we did, let's say, oh, I'm using APA, all I'd have to do is click on it. Notice they look completely different. Okay, there's big differences between them. They do contain roughly the same information though. So anyway, we're going to highlight this and copy. Okay, so I hit Control C, and we're going to add this to our citation page, to our works cited. Now, this one was by a gentleman named Kirk Honeycutt, so we're going to put it in alphabetical order to start. You can sort things, but if you're just adding one, why not put it in order? Okay, I always have to do my alphabet. Now, one of the things that's interesting, and I don't want this to be a link, so I'm going to say don't do that. One of the things that's interesting is if you just paste that in here, it's going to mess up the formatting. So what you want to do, and I'm on a Mac, yours will look a little bit different, but I want to say match formatting. And you'll notice it kept all of the italics and it kept all of the quotation marks. It also switched it to my chosen font, which is helpful. Okay. Now, I don't like that there's this weird gap. I'm going to make sure it doesn't have an enter in it. It doesn't. So what you can do sometimes is trick it. There we go. By just putting a space in that long URL. And now it doesn't look so weird with that big giant gap. If you forget to do that or don't do that, it's not a big deal. But that's how you would put it in here. Now, if I were citing this in the paper, and of course I'm not, but if I were, it would be Honeycutt, unless I use Honeycutt's name in the sentence. And I do have a page number because it was all on one page in the original. So I can put 7. The other alternative is to use paragraph numbers. So if we go back over here and I'm taking information, let's say I'm taking information from this third paragraph. When I cite that in the paper, this is what it's going to look like. Honeycutt PAR period 3. And I'm just going to put it here so that you can see what it looks like. We're not going to actually add it in the document, but if you are going to use paragraph numbers, you just put PAR before it. Okay, so that's what that's going to look like when I cite it in the document. It doesn't matter, again, it doesn't matter if I put it in my own words, I have to cite it. So if I put the factoid here, more than 100 million copies of these novels now circulate in 47 languages. If I use that exact wording, of course, I have to show it as a quote. But I would probably reword it. Rowling's books have sold over 100 million copies in 47 languages, something along those lines. And then I would have Honeycutt, PAR, period, 1. Honeycutt, comma, PAR, period, 1 in my in-text citation. So let's talk a little bit about citing a website. So I'm going to go to Google. And I'm going to put Harry Potter. Let's just look up a thing about the movies. I'm not going to cite Wikipedia. Please don't use Wikipedia in your work. We're writing academic papers. So I have gone to an article on the website known as deadline.com, and I am looking at an article. I mean, mostly I am looking at the ad right now, but now I'm looking at the article that was written by Tom Tapp in January of this year. And the title of the article, or the title of the page, is All the Harry Potter Movies in Chronological Order, from Sorcerer's Stone to Deathly Hallows to Fantastic Beasts. Now, I need all of that information in order to cite this source. But I'm going to try something because I mentioned a website earlier, scribber.com, except I can't spell. And there are citation tools. Now, Scribber is not the only one. Another popular one is easybib.com. They are typically pretty good, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you check that against the resources in the library that you have a good citation. So I'm going to choose citation generator, and I'm going to choose MLA. Now, I just found out today, Valencia has been updating their website like crazy. There is a new edition out for MLA, but if you are using 8 or 9, you are fine with me. A number of you were using an even older version that had things like print or web at the end of them. That is way outdated. So you do need to be using a current source. But the Valencia website still has information for both 8 and 9. So I'm fine with either one. I'm just going to pick the newest one because why not? Right. All right. So we have, I just put in the URL, just copied and pasted it, and I hit cite, and this is the information. This is the citation. So it gave me a citation. Notice it has the author. It has the article or page title. It has the website title and a publication date along with the URL. So we're going to copy that to the clipboard. Notice that one thing I like about Scribber is that it also tells you what you will use in the parenthetical citation. And it's just his last name because it is a website. Or you could use a last name and a paragraph number. You are not required to use a paragraph number unless they are pre-numbered. Okay. Tap would go at the end. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter, and we're going to again match formatting. And there is my citation. Now I am going to make this S small. I don't know why that S is giant, but we're going to make that S small. That's it. That's all you got to do. Now I do have one tiny problem with this citation, and that is that movie titles in MLA do not use quotation marks. They use italics. This is one of those things where if you didn't fix this, I would not hold it against you because you are getting the information from a place that's doing it wrong themselves, and I don't hold that against you. But I'm going to take off these single quotation marks. Notice that they are single quotation marks because they are in a larger title. That is something that you would need to pay attention to. So if you were citing a title within a title, it's still marked as the correct form of title. Voila. There we go. So when we cite this in the paper, again, it's just going to have Tapp's name in parentheses with nothing else, unless you also want to include the paragraph. Okay. Do not wait until you have finished the paper and then try to go add in citations. Yes, it will take you longer to do it correctly to start with, but it is absolutely essential that you do the works cited page before you do anything else. And then as you are writing, whenever you use a piece of information from a source, whether quoted or paraphrased, you do also include that in-text citation. It is required 100% of the time. Okay. Like I said, I will probably do another video later on help with, locating sources in the library, but the library has a ton of resources available. So please make use of the page in the library that helps you find sources. A couple of folks said they couldn't sign in. You need to contact the library. I mean, it's that simple. They're there to help you. You don't even have to go to the library. Every time you log into the library, that little chat window comes up. So there's no reason not to be able to utilize the resources that we have at Valencia. So if you have questions about citations, please post them on the Q&A discussion board so that I can only answer them once and I don't have to answer separate questions for every single person. But if you have questions about your individual assignment that something you messed up or something that you need help with, you feel free to inbox me. But if it's a question that others could benefit from, please do use the Q&A board. Okay? You can do this. I promise you can. Just one final reminder, and I mentioned this in the previous announcement, but you can't redo the exemplification paper for a new grade. You are going to redo the exemplification paper for the final portfolio. So you can feel free to go ahead and make those changes now, get some extra help with it from the Learning Center if you want help from the tutors, to double check your citations and make sure you've done everything that you needed to do. But mostly what I want you to do and concentrate on is the next paper. So in your comparison contrast paper, aim for perfect MLA formatting, aim for perfect documentation. You may not be perfect. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with not even attempting it. So please do, and let me know if you have questions. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.